to you about this before, and also not long ago I made a video in which I went into some of the details of Bitcoin's values and why, in my opinion, it is far better than any fiat currency and far better than shiny rocks like gold and silver. Now, you can say that gold and value have a kind of perceived value. Gold and silver have a perceived value because they're hard rocks, really just metals. They're portable. They're not really portable. I mean, they are, but they're kind of heavy, especially if you have a lot of them. They have intrinsic value. There's really no asset that has intrinsic value. However, people like to use that word, so we'll give it to them. It's borderless. Well, that's not true, because you can definitely be stopped for transporting a certain amount of gold or silver across borders, especially if it's not just jewelry that you're wearing or fillings in your teeth or whatever, right? It has industrial uses, yes. Gold and silver have, still to this day, industrial uses, right? They're used in electronic circuitry, they're used in space devices, be it satellites or whatever you have, rockets, all kinds of different things use gold and silver. There's gold and silver used in art, so it has all kinds of cultural value, some scientific value and industrial value. But those values are relatively minimal compared to the amount that is available, and people keep mining more of it, just like the Federal Reserve or central banks keep printing more fiat currency, right, without a limit. Well, there may be a limit to the supply of gold and silver currently on Earth that can be mined, but it's a pretty vast amount of what's left to be mined. But yeah, you can say lots of the biggest known veins have already been mined. What's left? Well, there's still plenty of known veins that have yet to be mined. There's also plenty of gold in things like riverbeds and at the bottom of the seafloor, or the ocean floor, or whatever. There's plenty of it still left to be mined, even if the technology to getting it may take some time to perfect and whatever. Every year there are more efficiencies made in that process, and every year there's more of that material being mined and put into circulation. Now, why does that matter? Well, because if it doesn't have a hard cap on its supply, that means that it's inflating in its supply, and that means that its value can't be increased by the fact that it's got a limited supply, right, or even a hard cap, a max limit on its supply. Also, there are other heavenly bodies like asteroids and planets that have plenty of gold and silver on them. And sure, at the moment, it's not yet something that people are doing, mining it and all that. But at some point, it may indeed be the case that we will mine gold and silver in space or on other planets or whatever. And why does that matter? Well, it probably won't affect the supply on Earth very much, because the cost of bringing it to Earth may outweigh the value of doing so, at least at first. However, at some point that may change, but even if it doesn't, whoever's going to mine it in space and sell it to other people or organizations also in space will find there is some kind of profitability there, or else they wouldn't do it. So it may find the market as humans venture more into space and establish either colonies or permanent settlements, or even just float around in space station type things. Who knows? But the point is, there is no known finite amount of gold or silver. There could be enormous amounts of it. I mean, so, but what about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoins have a max supply, right, at about 20 million Bitcoin. There won't ever be more than that are able to be mined. And once that number is mined, there won't be any more supply available. What there will be in circulation and available for supply to anybody who wants to acquire some, that will be that. Now, some people say, well, that's insane because the population's growing and inflation keeps changing and interest rates keep changing. How do you account for that? And the answer is, really, you don't. You don't inflate the asset by the population increase, or you don't change the asset supply based on inflation or interest rates or cost of living or whatever lifespan, because first of all, it does not have to be the only asset, and it's not the only asset, right? Even if the great flippening happens where a Satoshi will be worth $1 at some point, that still isn't a reason to think that Bitcoin will be the only asset, because it won't be. One of the reasons that that's the case is because humans are competitive, so people will always make other projects to compete with the top dog, right? That's just human nature. But what about its values? Well, so apart from the max cap and max supply, the whole theory of Austrian economics, which says that assets that have a limited supply tend to have higher perceived value when there's a demand for them, obviously. It has other factors which are very desirable for a number of reasons. One of them, as I mentioned in the recent video, was it's an anti-censorship coin. You can send your Bitcoin to whoever you want, and they can receive it from you directly, and you don't have to have any middleman, and nobody can stop you, right? If you have the Bitcoin in your wallet and you have control of your wallet, and the recipient has a wallet they can receive it in, and they have control of that wallet, then no one can stop that transaction. Once you send it, it is sent. Once the blockchain verifies it with a few different verification servers, that's it. It's marked on the and it is immutable. That transaction cannot be changed on the ledger. If you send too much, you send too much. If you send too little, you send too little. Can you send more? Sure, you can send more. Can you request part of your payment back? You can request, but the receiver doesn't have to oblige, especially if you don't know who they are or where they are or anything like that. So that's why you have to be extremely careful with sending your assets to anywhere. And it's always a good idea, depending on the size of the transaction, to send a small test amount, especially if it's the first time you sent anything to a particular wallet. Send, just a few Satoshis, whatever. Send a Satoshi or whatever, just to test and make sure that that wallet can receive. You probably send more than one Satoshi because anyway, the fees will cost you more than that, but send a Satoshi, send 1,000, doesn't matter. And you'll see, right? And then if it goes through fine, then you send the remainder, right? That's one thing. And I really wanted to talk to you about more of the values that it has. But for now, once again, I'm going to leave it at that. And I will continue with Bitcoin values at a later date. Cheers.